Ted Scott is Director of Global Strategy at F&C Asset Management, joins me in the studio now. And Fred, just want to get your thoughts on this latest development. Someone arrested in London on suspicion of fraud in relation to this trade. I suppose it raises, the financial cost is one thing, we know that, but it raises bigger issues about the impact on the bank's reputation. And so what do we know about the internal mechanics of something like this? How is an unauthorized trade even able to happen?
Well, it's very difficult to control what's going on a day-to-day basis, and certainly risk controls have been tightened up since the financial crisis broke back in 2008-2009. As one of your guests said previously, in 2008-2009, UBS needed help in terms of recapitalisation and imposed greater risk controls on the investment bank then. And so this is a big reputational embarrassment to them that it's been uncovered just now, as things are also getting worse in the Eurozone at the same time, and there's a threat of another banking crisis.
Nevertheless, if we compare this to losses in the past, it doesn't stack up. I mean, just to put it into context, many analysts are coming out with notes now saying, well, $2 billion loss, obviously not ideal for any bank, investment banking division in this environment, but nevertheless it's a loss that they can absorb.
Yeah, that's right. It's the comparisons with Barings back in the 90s with Nick Leeson and also Societe Generale. I don't think those are right in terms of the reputation, the loss to their capital base. They won't have to recapitalise or have an equity issuance. But what it does, it damages their reputation severely, and they might have to cut dividends. But in terms of the quantity of it, it's really a loss of a few months' profits.
All right, well, you know, actually we're just getting some details now trickling into us, some details to do with this arrest of a man in London on suspicion of fraud in relation to the UBS $2 billion trading loss. Manus, what are we getting?
Maryam, the City of London police have arrested a 31-year-old man at 3:30 a.m. this morning under the suspicion of fraud and abuse of position. He remains in custody. This is a City of London police arrest, and as I say, it's now focusing in on London, and as we get more details, of course, we'll bring it to you. 31-year-old man on suspicion of fraud and abuse of position.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Manus. So obviously, Ted, getting information there about the substance, the reasons behind the arrest of this man, abuse of his position and fraud. How is this going to impact on the company?
Well, there's going to be a big internal investigation. I think the chief executive's already announced that, and they're going to have to impose even tighter risk controls. We don't yet know the details as to where the loss originated, whether it's a forex loss, for instance, or whatever. But clearly, they're going to have to monitor things extremely closely, and they're just going to have to try to restore their reputation as best they can.
And I suppose when we speak about even tighter risk control, already concerns about the impact of regulation and banks having to boost capital requirements. Less risk, of course, means less return.
That's right, yes, and we've got the Independent Commission in London, and at the same time, at the moment, threatening to separate the investment banks from the retail banks as well, which is going to impose greater risk control. That's part of the idea behind it as well, so you don't get a situation like we've had in 2008.
And what about some analysts calling the dividend payout into question as well? Again, how is that going to impact the way investors view this company?
Well, I think they want to avoid that at all costs, really, but clearly it's a substantial loss, $2 billion, and they may try to redress it by cutting costs further so they can get round it that way rather than having to cut the dividend for shareholders.
All right, Ted Scott, thanks very much indeed. Good to talk to you, Portfolio Manager at F&C Asset Management.